and welcome to the programme.
Now, as property developers ourselves, we love the thrill of negotiating a deal and searching out a bargain.
Absolutely, but we're not the only ones investing in bricks and mortar.
And an alternative way to do it is to buy property under the hammer. Buying houses at auction is becoming more and more popular every year.
Now, last year, more than 30,000 properties sold under the hammer.
That's 8% of the total number of properties sold in the UK.
So let's take a look at what's being snapped up at auction today. There's a 4-storey terraced house in Chelsea, in London. Just right if you want to live alongside the rich and famous.
In Northumberland, there's an altogether more spiritual residence on offer. That's if you don't mind sharing your home with an altar, an organ and some gravestones.
And in London, SE17, there's a tiny flat for sale, which is just hoping to get itself an imaginative new owner to give it a new lease of life.
All these properties will be going to auction today, and we'll be finding out who buys them and what they pay for them as they go under the hammer.
I'm in Parsons Green in Fulham, and it is absolutely lashing it down. But so what? It's still a very desirable location. You're very close to the chic shops and the trendy bars of the King's Road, and you're within striking distance of Chelsea Football Club. Yes, if you want to live near the rich and famous, this is the place to do it. But you normally have to pay quite a price to do so. Houses around here go for well over £1 million. So when a 4-storey property goes up for auction with a guide price of £500,000 and it's a minute's walk away from the tube, you think it's either been a misprint or a potential bargain. Let's find out.
I don't want to go to Chelsea.
This is a substantial 5-bedroom terrace townhouse in desirable SW6. Its elegant Victorian facade boasts lovely features, including a grand portico around the front door, elegant windows, and even a delicious little balcony on the first floor. This is an edible house, all right, and I'm getting hungry to see what the inside has to offer. Wow. Just look at this hallway. Now, these are original Minton tiles. I love the doorway, the features on the ceiling. If the hallway's this good, I can't wait to see the rest of the house. This property really feels like it's been in a time warp. Once you've got past the wallpaper and you notice things like this old original fireplace here, the ceiling rose, it's absolutely stunning. The windows do look as if they're a little bit rotten to me and would need replacing. Properties like this, they do not come onto the market that often. This one is a real find. Well, the plasterwork on that ceiling looks good enough to eat too. It's like coloured icing sugar. Absolutely beautiful. And here's a tip. That retro chic light fitting would get a good price down your local antique market these days. And there's another cracking example in the second reception room. This is another large room with an original fireplace behind that board and original doors with Victorian finger plates. This room leads through to the back scullery, which leads out onto the garden. There's an original butler's sink in here. This house, well, it's just dripping with potential. There's a useful basement room downstairs, which suffers from lack of light, but a good airing will sort this out. The garden is another aspect of the house that got my appetite going. If you're hungry for some fresh air and light, this space provides it. Walled on every side, a bit of clever landscaping will transform it into a thing of beauty. And the upstairs of this property is equally lovely. Good sized double bedroom there, fireplace. I would not want to have a bath in here. That would need totally stripping out. But once you've stripped out this bathroom, it could become an ensuite to the bedroom next door. So this could be another main reception room or even a front bedroom. But look at this. The previous owners have left us their 45 collection. But what worries me about this property is it's vast. There is so much work to do. It's going to swallow up somebody's cash. You certainly have to be careful how you spend your money here, but some prudent investment and improvement could really pay off, as long as you aren't daunted by the size of the thing. Now this house just keeps on going. Good sized bedroom in there. And a kitchen. Now this makes me think that maybe some time ago there was a self-contained flat up here. But boy, they need to do some serious work. And thinking about it, there wasn't a kitchen downstairs at all, except that scullery, so all that would have to be addressed. There's a fifth bedroom next to the kitchen, and it's obvious that this has suffered from damp, so perhaps the roof is going to need work too. More money to spend. Time to talk to a local agent about what this house in this posh area really would be worth once it was done up. So let's get to the nitty-gritty about this area. Talk to me about postcodes. I know there's a real snobbery in London about that.
There certainly is. The great thing about Fulham SW6 is it is right on the boundary of Chelsea, SW3, SW5, and that's what makes it so popular.
What type of person tends to live here?
Around here, largely families. A couple of children go to local schools, go away for the weekend, straight down the M4. But also, a lot of these houses have been divided up into flats, so we've got young professionals, all sorts.
Is a property like this a rare find, something that hasn't yet been converted?
Getting rarer and rarer. In an area like this, in central London, obviously everything that's been converted and played with has been. So properties like this, as I say, are getting harder and harder to find.
But will this 100-year-old treasure be kept as a family house, or will a 21st century purchaser have other investment plans for it? What type of person do you think will be looking to bid for a property such as this at auction?
I would say a family who maybe wants to do it up and do some work on it, and obviously the profit at the end. It could possibly be divided up into flats, in which case a developer would certainly look at it for those reasons.
The guide price, up for auction for £500,000.
Yep. It seems very cheap, but that's very usual in auctions. Guide prices are normally quite low to try and push everybody to pay a little bit more.
What do you think this house might go for under the hammer?
Under the hammer, I think it'll probably go just south of 600, 550, something around there.
George, what would you like to see happen to this property?
I'd like to see this house turned back into a family house, which is exactly what it was built for. Children playing in the garden and just being a happy family home.
So, will the new owner of this property turn it into flats or a beautiful family home? Let's find out when it goes under the hammer.
It's a property at 13 Parsons Green Lane in Fulham, Southwest 6.
Parsons Green Lane, probably and arguably one of the best locations in Fulham.
Freehold opportunity in Fulham.
We're offering here a very, very substantial family house. Guide price is only £500,000 plus.
Just down the road from Parsons Green.
Which represents extremely good value for money.
Certainly recommend the White Horse or the Imperial Arms on King's Road.
I would expect to see the ultimate sale price significantly above that.
Don't come up that often then.
There's going to be very, very competitive bidding for this.
85 then. Parsons Green Lane, Fulham. What do you want to start me on this? Substantial opportunity, Southwest 6. Start me at 550 if you will. 540, learner, 40. Where do you want to start? 525, you're saying? It's a little low. We'll start there. 525, I haven't bid. Thank you. 525 will start. It's worth a lot more, but we'll start there. 530, can I see? Who's here for this one? If not, £525,000 on my left-hand side. 530, can I see? With you, sir, then at £525,000, 530, madam. Thank you. 535? 535. Now, 540, 540, 545, 545, 550, 550, 555. Trying to come in the front? 555, 555, 560 now, 560, 565, 565, 570 from here. Just nod, thank you, 570, 575. Comfortably worth it. Not yet, 575, 575, thank you, 580, madam. Easily worth it, 580, thank you, 585. 585, thank you. 590. Just wave at me, 590, thank you. 595. Don't come up that often round there, I can assure you. 595, thank you. 600. Easy worth that round there, I can assure you. 600 from you. Thank you, 600. 605 now, bin me. 605. 606, thank you. 607 now. Thank you. 608. 608. 609. Yes? Thank you, 609. 610 from you. 610. 611 now. Doing so well. 611. 612. Cracking property in South West 6 here. I've got a £611,000 on bid. At £612,000 on bid. Any more? At £612,000, you sure in the front? I'll take £400 now if it helps you. If not, at 612 with the lady at the back then for the first time, you sure? At £612,000 on bid at the back for the second time. Third and last time. Are you all done, ladies and gentlemen? £612,000. Well, congratulations. Yours, madam, at £612,000.
And the Edible House in Parsons Green Lane sold to Ronnie Elmhurst. She's married to a record producer and they've got 2 kids. We met up at a local cafe. Well, where else do you meet up to talk about a scrumptious house?
Ronnie, it's great to meet you. I'm in love with your property. So what is it about this area that's drawn you here?
It's quite sort of civilised, I think. After living in Shepherd's Bush, which I love, which is fantastic, for a long time, it's kind of, you know it's a difference. You kind of have enough of that. It comes a point in everyone's life where I think you feel like, okay, enough already. I just want to be normal. I want to have shops. I don't want to wait for an area to pick up. I want to live in an area that's all right already. You know, there are places to spend your money, if you've got any, which I haven't. Now I've bought a house.
Ronnie may not have any money left at the moment, but I think this is a fantastic purchase and great investment.
So you do know if you converted this into flats, you would make an absolute killing?
Yeah, but it's not always about the money, is it?
Yes.
Yes.
Of course it's about the money.
Ronnie wants this house as a family home, and to be honest, I don't blame her. It will make a wonderful base to bring up her children.
You see now, Ronnie, I find it incredible, those Minton tiles in the hallway, this wonderful fireplace. It all comes with the property.
Yeah, but, you know, you shouldn't keep things, I don't believe it, just because they are Victorian, but just because they came with the property. I mean, I actually don't like them. That is going. That's going to be one of the first things that go.
Why?
I do not like the tiles. And somebody will actually love that the way it is, so I'm going to sell that. And it'll help get my place rewired, I think.
I think this is a mistake. Original features always keep their value, and in my experience, you should hold on to them.
What else are you going to do to this house?
Well, we're planning to do very little deconstruction. We're going to keep the walls where they are. We're not knocking down anything, not on the ground floor level anyway. We're going to lose one of the bedrooms upstairs to make it into a bathroom.
Which bedroom, on the top floor?
No, the middle floor, which will be our floor. The children will be on the very top floor. And in the basement, you know, eventually we'll dig that all out. And there'll be an extension, that's the only thing on the kitchen, there'll be an extension, which I have sort of grand ideas for, but might happen within the next 5 or 10 years, I'm not sure.
All this work is going to eat into her budget, so what are her plans?
Well, we're going to spend about $75,000 on rewiring and central heating, the things that really, really matter. Everything else will come later.
So Ronnie has limits on her budget, and she has limits on the timescale too, because she's trying to do all of this before the kids start school in 5 months' time. So where are they all living now?
With mother-in-law.
Now talk to me about that.
Oh, she's lovely. She is absolutely lovely. She's got a very big house. It's enough for room for all of us. My husband was brought up in that house, so, you know, he's near mummy, so it's quite nice for him.
What's your timescale? How soon do you plan on getting all this work done?
Well, as soon as all the estimates are in, we've had quite a few. We want to be in here, well, we've got to be in here by August. So we'll move in August, regardless of what state it's in.
Well, this house certainly has lots of potential, and we'll be back later in the programme to find out if Ronnie's 75 grand budget has been enough to transform this Victorian terrace house into the family home of her dreams.
Developers may be busy converting every factory, warehouse and abandoned school they can lay their hands on. But if you're looking for a stylish home which will really lift your spirits, then a church conversion at just 90 grand might be the answer to your prayers. I'm in Shildon, County Durham, to take a look at lot number 74, otherwise known as All Saints Church. Now, you may raise your eyes to the heavens at the thought of something like this being converted to residential or commercial use. But the sad fact is that England has more redundant churches than anywhere else in Europe, and they do offer incredible development potential.
That's me in the corner. That's me in the spotlight, losing my religion.
Church conversions only became possible when the law changed in 1969 and the Church of England was allowed to release disused buildings for other uses. By selling off the property they no longer required, the church has been able to generate a much-needed 26 million quid. Over 1,600 churches have so far been closed down, but very few are given approval to be turned into residential property. Well, the final decision about any future use of a redundant church rests with the church commissioners, and this is one of only 213 English churches that have been approved for residential use. So the opportunity to develop churches is rare, and to find one with a guide price of just £90,000 to £100,000, it's almost heaven sent. All Saints Church is built in a Gothic style. Erected in 1868, it's made up of north and west porches and a western tower with a spire. The big selling point, though, is the giant space that made up the area where the congregation sat. Well, in its heyday, there was seating for 460 people here. But when it closed in 1988, there were just 6 regular worshippers. Well, since then, as you can see, the pews have gone and some development work has been carried out, but thankfully, a lot of the original features still remain. The pulpit and the organ are both still there, and luckily the stained glass windows are also intact with very little damage.
That was just a dream.
Well, one thing for sure, whoever takes on this place has got to retain as many of these architectural features as they can, because to lose them would be an absolute travesty. There are, of course, covenants in place which restrict the removal of certain features and ensure they're protected. This is where the plans for conversion could become crucial, although I don't want to preach. Well, getting planning permission to convert a church like this can be a bit of a nightmare. Any plans have to go through the church authorities, the local planning office, and as it's a listed building, English Heritage. All those people will have their say about what you can and can't do. For instance, moving the pulpit here or the organ. But the good news is that this place already has planning permission for conversion to residential dwelling. The plan currently segregates the building into a number of rooms with a corridor leading right down the middle. Any new owner will need to decide whether they want to stick with the plans as they are or attempt to get new ones approved. But of course, it's not just the interior they have to worry about. The exterior throws up other problems too. Now, obviously having a graveyard on your doorstep isn't to everyone's taste, but the land itself is incredibly valuable. The land that's owned by the church ends actually there, and this is owned by the local council, but I reckon any future developer would maybe want to buy that. Of course, when it comes to actually developing that land, especially when it's a graveyard, things do get complicated. Whoever owns the land will have to stick to the special rules regarding the tending of a graveyard. That means you can't remove or alter tombstones or memorials without special permission. To find out more about converting a church, I arranged to meet up with a conservation architect. So what are the issues then, apart from the graded listing, of actually owning a church?
You really have to appreciate that this building has a history and it means something to the community around it. people have a collective memory about this church. They were possibly baptised or married, or their parents or grandparents or ancestors buried in the churchyard.
What about the whole issue of actually purchasing churches in this country? I mean, it's extraordinary that it's happening in a way, isn't it?
Yes, 30 years ago, this church would probably have been made redundant and then demolished. It's only really since the 1950s, with the rise in the interest in Victorian buildings, that these buildings have been respected and cared for.
How well do churches in general convert into living accommodation?
It is quite difficult because most conventional houses have a lot of small rooms, whereas this lends itself to one large open-plan living space.
So what do you think about the plans that have been drawn up so far?
I don't think they realise the full potential of the building. I think open-plan living, the way that we live today, with maybe a dining, kitchen, living area, suits this sort of building perfectly well. If you try to subdivide it into separate kitchens, separate dining, and lots of small spaces, it doesn't work quite so well. I
mean, you'd really want to make the most of this huge area in a way, wouldn't you?
Yes, you'd want to keep the main volume, I think, in the centre of the building, and possibly put up a floor maybe higher up at the far end to take advantage of the beautiful rose window.
Whatever you do, you are talking about one heck of a lot of work here, aren't you?
Yes, yes. I think the less subdivision that you do, the simpler it will be.
Well, that sounds like a good way of life, if you ask me. Whoever converts this church is going to get themselves one fantastic property. Well, what an incredible opportunity this presents for somebody. And not surprisingly, it's really captured the imagination of potential purchasers. They've already had over 60 viewings. And I reckon that when this goes to auction, competition is going to be fierce. Let's find out.
Lot number 74, please. All Saints Church in All Saints Road at Shildon at Durham.
Intriguing property being an old church which has got planning permission to convert it into one residential unit. It's got a guide price of 90 to 100,000. I would have thought it will go well over that kind of price.
A Grade 2 listed former church. Lot number 74, may I say £100,000 somewhere. The old church, a stone-built church for £100,000. No bid? 100,000 offered. 105,000. 110,000. 115,000. 120,000. May I say 125? 125. 130,000. The bid is 130,000. Another 132. All finished at 130. I'll take 132. All finished at 132. I have 132. The gentleman's bid beside me at 132. I'll take 134 if you wish. All finished at 132,000. I'm going to sell it for 132. Sold for 132,000.
The successful bidder was Brian Lever, but surprisingly the property is not actually his. I went to meet Brian to find out more. Well, Brian, congratulations.
Thank you.
What a thing to buy.
Well, it is something, isn't it? Yes, it is.
So, why did you buy it?
We bought it really to renovate and sell on as a residence.
Now, you talk about we. Who's the we?
My son and his business partner, Neil, are actually the purchasers. I simply do the financial work, like going along to the auction and bidding for it.
So you got it anyway, £132,000.
£132,000.
It sounds like a ridiculously small amount of money for what you've got here, doesn't
Well,
it?
I thought so, yes. I could see living here myself.
Well, should we go inside and see what we can do inside?
Let's do that.
See what your plans are. Brian has been entrusted to oversee the initial stages of the development while Nigel and Neil work down south. Before project work begins, I was keen to find out more about the plans and whether they're going to be sympathetic to the building's heritage. So, Brian, what are your first thoughts when you see this as a potential project?
Well, it's big, but it's a wonderful project.
So what are your plans for it?
Well, I'm not an architect, so I can't give you the architectural details, but I see a window up there that I would just love to see in a room. So probably with a mezzanine at this end, with that window featuring to get the light in, and probably having a very large space at one end and another large space before it.
You're not going to stick with the plans that have been approved then?
From my point of view, I didn't like the plans as they were.
Now, obviously there are some sensitivities with what you've bought here. Have you taken those on board?
Yes, obviously people in this area will still regard this as a church, and to all intents and purposes, from outside, it should still look like a church.
What about the architectural features then, and the original features here? What are you going to do with those?
Well, keep as many as possible, because this is a beautiful place. It would be terrible to remove windows like this.
Well, the team certainly seem to have the right idea. Open up the space, keep the features and respect the heritage of the property. I can't wait to see it. The question is, when will it be finished?
Well, we're looking at somewhere between a year and 18 months. But again, that's not hard and fast. If it takes longer, well and good.
That's not a long time in church years. This place has been standing here for centuries, so it can wait. But Brian is very taken with one of the church's assets.
There's an organ there. I don't know how we can keep an organ in a house, but I would love to have a house with an organ in it. Imagine having a party. You don't bring in a DJ, you bring in an organist.
I wonder if he can afford to hire me. We'll find out how Brian's plans are getting on a little further down the order of service.
Coming up, we're going to the Elephant and Castle in London to find out who buys this bijou basement flat with loads of potential.
We're going back to Northumberland to discover whether this church has been the answer to Brian's property developing prayers.
But first we're off to see if Ronnie's plans for that edible house in Parsons Green Lane is serving her up with a nice little profit. We're back in the part of London where you can expect to meet film stars and celebrities. Chelsea and the surrounding areas are expensive and select. Houses sell for literally millions of pounds here, but this one had some great features. And it sold for a very competitive price, just £612,000 at auction to Ronnie. But she wasn't keen on some of the original features in this house, although she was keeping the whole property as one big family home.
That is going. That's going to be one of the first things that go.
Why?
Somebody will actually love that the way it is, so I'm going to sell that. And that will help get my place rewired, I think.
3 months later, and this massive redecorating project was underway, and the house was feeling very good.
It's a new day, it's a new life.
The rooms are all being transformed. It's a complete makeover.
And I'm feeling good.
So it looked great, but was it all running to plan?
It's run over by, 6 weeks? We're 6 weeks now, which is, it's not bad.
Now, Ronnie wanted to change a lot of the layout, but she'd had second thoughts about that too.
The more I sort of saw the house, the more I thought, actually, it's fantastic the way it is. It doesn't need to have to be open plan. It doesn't need to have walls knocked down. It's fine as it is.
Children are having a wonderful time in the house already, and they're taking part in the whole project.
I didn't actually choose the colour of this one, my mum did. At first I wasn't very happy about it, but now it's the colour that I really like because it makes it look bigger. It's got a really nice view from this window, of all the gardens, which is really good. And I'm going to have lots of plants in here and lots of pictures and things.
This house used to look like a horror house a bit, and it had newspaper everywhere from 1940s and stuff like that, and it didn't look very nice.
When I first saw the house, I remember I just thought, we're never going to live here.
It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life.
My room is quite nice because it's got the top floor there and then kind of like a wardrobe.
And I'm feeling good.
And now what about the heart of the home?
Well, this is going to be the kitchen. We've got a freestanding range there. We've had a lovely stone floor put in. And this gorgeous unit, which the whole kitchen, I think, was based around, this will be all the storage, pots, pans, food, glasses, The lean-to is going to become a little pottery shed, I think, which is going to have a real sort of rustic feel to it. We've tried not to do too much to it. We would like to spend money, obviously, on the garden, which we haven't touched, which was ridiculous to even attempt to. I mean, we went out and weeded it once, and, you know, within a week it looked the same, so it was a complete waste of time. Well, this is the children's floor. Well, one thing we really liked about the house, well, I liked about the house when I first saw it, was the atrium, the lovely glass sky roof light there, which we just had reglazed, which has let in a lot more light, which is wonderful. So we have the 2 bedrooms. We had to, unfortunately, make one room a little bit smaller to incorporate this shower room here, which has got a wonderful skylight, so that when the children shower, they can see, you know, clear blue skies. And here, this, if you remember, was a cupboard, and I was quite worried about doing this, but because in terms of space it may not have been very big, but it's turned out fine. Obviously it hasn't been painted yet, but it is going to be their loo. Originally this was going to be an enormous bathroom, but we decided actually it was better as a main bedroom. The colour is called Invisible Green. The whole idea, I think, is to sort of a hunting lodge. Inside is the ensuite bathroom. There's a freestanding bath under the window, which is absolutely tiny. It had to be 5 foot long. And a little loo and a little vanity basin as well. Everything's little, little, little. Even the door.
They spent £612,000 on this house, but what about the cost of the renovations?
Well, the budget was about £75,000. We didn't want to spend much more than that. But basically, you know, give or take a few £1,000s for VAT and whatever, we've come in around about on budget.
2 local agents from the area should certainly know the value of this property. What will they think of Ronnie's alterations?
They don't build houses like this anymore, so there is a strong demand for this size of house.
The bathrooms that have been added upstairs have certainly made a huge difference. I've always got this theory that bathrooms and kitchens sell houses.
If the house is finished to the standard that it looks like it's going to be finished to, then I would recommend asking in the region of £950,000 for it.
I think if this was finished and it went on the market tomorrow looking fantastic, it would be worth anywhere between £900,000 and £950,000.
That's a really good price. I'm really pleased with that, but I wouldn't sell it anyway. I mean, it's a family home, it's worked brilliantly, it's a fantastic location, and, you know, we're very happy.
Well over 200 grand profit in such a short time. That is simply marvellous. This family should certainly be feeling good living here. I've come to another area of London now, further south and a lot busier.
This is Walworth Road in South London. It's just around the corner from the Elephant and Castle and known as a main traffic route, but it's also a thriving shopping area, and it's just around the corner from Lot 39.
This area is just outside the congestion zone and has very good access to the city centre with a train station, a regular bus route, as well as the new improved tube station. But just around the corner, it's much quieter.
This is Charleston Street. I'm here today to take a look at this mid-terraced Victorian property. It's a 2-bedroom garden flat, and it's even got its own white picket fence.
What's for sale here is a 2-bed ground floor flat in this Victorian property. It's up for auction at a guide price of 95 grand. That price seems quite good when you see what you get for your money. There are 2 bedrooms in this ground floor flat, one at the front of the property and one further back. Right at the back is what they call the living room. The conversion of this flat is not well designed and will need to be improved if you're to get the best value out of it. There's a small patio area at the back, which is very useful, and the property has already been extended.
Well, this is the extension to the flat, and in my opinion, is what really lets the place down. Now, they've squeezed a kitchen and a bathroom into this area. I think it would benefit from a reshuffle to try and make better use of the space. One thing to bear in mind, though, this is a structural wall, and your choices could be limited.
In reality, this flat is more suited to being a one-bed property, with the reception and extension area converted into a large kitchen diner and one of the bedrooms converted into a bathroom. It may not make financial sense, but it would certainly make the property work better. Whatever the buyers do with it, I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest. I've invited along a local estate agent to tell me more.
With this flat, it is in a good location, with Elephant and Castle just about 5 minutes walk from here and Walworth Road to the left-hand side, so it's perfect, it's great. Investors could buy it, residential people, first-time buyers, second-time buyers. Looking at it, it's from every angle, it's great.
So what would this flat be worth if the new owner decided to rent it out?
Once it's done up, you'll be looking at a minimum of £850, really, so you can get anything from £850 upwards. If it's done up to a Parker standard, you could get about £950 to £1,000.
How much could we expect the flat to sell for on the open market?
That's the tricky bit. Having gone around the flat, I've sort of like identified the bathroom is behind the kitchen, so on and so forth. The garden is very narrow. So once it's done up really, and considering all these factors, we're looking at anything from 175 to 180.
That definitely seems like a good bargain to me. Is that guide price of £95,000 too low then?
Put it this way, if it's a normal property done up to the standard and you put it in the market today, you get offers by the end of the day.
Really?
Yeah, so if it's going to auction, it should sell, and it will sell easily. Probably it will sell in the 200,000 mark.
200 grand, and it isn't even pucker yet? I'd be astounded if we got anywhere near that. But I have to admit, this property does have some things going for it.
Living in central London carries a premium because you don't always get outside space. Now, whoever buys this property has got enough room for a table and chairs, perhaps, their mates over at the weekend, but they will have to think about getting the pruning shears out first.
So this little flat in Charleston Street could be a good deal.
I think this will be a very comfortable one-bedroom flat, but developers, for financial reasons, will probably need to keep it as a two-bedroom property. And with it being so close to central London, and with a very appealing guide price of £95,000, I think there's going to be a huge amount of interest in this place. Let's see what happens when it goes to auction.
5 Charleston Street, Walworth, South East 17.
This is a ground floor, two-bedroom flat. The Walworth area is ideally situated for central London and City.
The ground rent is £75 per annum, not as detailed in the catalogue.
This type of property will normally go to a builder or investor.
What should we say for this?
The guide price of this lot is £95,000.
Lot 39, two-bedroom flat, Walworth. It's not been 100. It's got to be worth 100. Yes, I've got £100,000 at the back. 105, 105, 110 at the back row. That's it, £110,000. 150 at the front, 150, 120 at the back, 125 at the front, 127.5 new place, gentleman with a pink shirt. 130, 130, 131, 131. Everybody else coming in, it's at 130, 132, gentleman with a black shirt at the back. 133, no. Quick conference, no. 133 on the phone, 134 at the back, 135 on the phone, 136 at the back, 137, 138 at the back, no, £137,000 on the phone. Everybody else coming in a bit before it goes, £137,000 on the phone for the first time. 138 new place, 139, 139, 140 at the back, gentleman in the black jacket, 140, 141, 141, 142, 142, 143 on the phone, 143, 144 on my left, the back, 144, 145, 145, 146 at the back, 146, 147, 150 at the back? Nope. Very definite. See you later on. £147,000 standing up on the phone the first time. 147 for the second time. 148 new place. 149. 149. 150, madam, the gateway. 150, sitting down. 151. 151. 152, madam, the gangway. 152. 153. 153. 154, madam. 154. 155, sir. 155. 156. 156. 157. 157. 158. 158. 159. 159. 160. 160. 161. 161. 162. 163, £162,000 sitting down on my right for the first time. 162 sitting down in the gangway for the second time. Third and last, I've all done £162,000. Sold 162 on my right sitting down.
So the happy new owners of Charleston Street are Liz and Delina. Will they be dancing all the way to the bank with that purchase price of 162 grand? I went to meet Liz at the property.
I've been a carpenter for 25 years, and for the last 10 years I've been multi-skill, which means I've learned a few other trades: plastering, plumbing, tiling. So I'm quite competent. Well, I like to think I am.
It's fantastic to have a female doing this. You know, so many people I interview on this programme, it's always guys. Do people sort of do a double take on you sometimes?
I get quite a lot of kudos, actually, which I like. People do believe that I can do the work, which is nice.
Now, what about Delina?
Delina from Ballymena. Yeah, she's my fairy godmother. She helped me raise the mortgage because I couldn't have raised the mortgage on my own. So she's rescued me that way.
Liz is obviously very accomplished, but she isn't going into this on her own. She's got her own gang of professionals to help her out.
I have 3 friends that are going to help me on this. I've got Stella, project manager. I have Ellen, she's my heating engineer. She'll also be doing the plumbing with Bob the builder.
Are they all doing you little bits and pieces for free at this stage?
It's not even little bits and pieces, is it? It's putting the central heating in and knocking things down and building things. But yes, they're doing it for love this time.
Keep that. You could save and...
So hang on, I'm not sure whether this lot are working together or not.
I don't think it's worth it.
Too much money.
Have you thought about putting a toilet under the stairs? But I think I'd like a shower.
So we are definitely going to get rid of the bath.
Keep that.
I'm not having that.
We can compromise on the fire front.
I can have a shower.
Yes, you can.
What about my system?
Well, I'll leave it to them, but I wonder how big a renovation job Liz can afford.
Well, we've only got 7 grand, but we have no labour costs, so I think if we spend it wisely, we'll be able to do something quite nice with it.
Do you have to keep this property as a 2-bed?
I do, because I shall have to live here with a lodger for a little while.
Liz, have you considered making any structural changes to the flat?
One idea was to perhaps extend... There's a small gap we have in the back that we could perhaps extend the extension further out and create a bit more space. The other idea was to open up the kitchen and reception room, make it all one. But it's not really viable because that's a structural wall. It's the old wall to the house, end of the house, and I'd have to put an RSJ in. It just doesn't make it viable.
There was a very serious problem that had raised its ugly head.
This property may not be mine because...
What?
Yeah, I know. Well, it came to light only on the day of completion, which was Thursday, but actually there isn't planning permission to divide this house into flats.
So you've just purchased a property that has no planning permission?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So years ago, somebody just decided to convert this building?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And luckily for us, it was a good time ago, at least late 80s. If we go to the borough surveyors, you get some sort of certificate to say that that's fine. Our problem is with the mortgage. We have to get them to accept an indemnity, and they haven't done that as yet.
Oh dear, just when things were looking so good. It just goes to show how important it is to read the legal pack before you buy at auction.
So what would your future dream be?
Buy properties, do them up with my little team, although I'd have to pay them eventually, I suppose. They're doing it for love this time, but I guess they're not going to do that forever.
Later in the show, we'll find out if Liz has managed to add some style to chintzy Charleston Street.
Well, it's been several months now since those properties were sold at auction.
And our buyers on today's show have all worked really hard.
So, do they have a panache for DIY, or have their building skills been severely challenged?
Well, let's go back and find out.
Living in a church may be some people's idea of heaven. The stained glass, the wonderful stonework, the altar, the organ, it's all here in all its glory. We're back in Shildon in Northumberland, where All Saints Church went under the hammer and was successfully bought at auction by Brian Lever for £132,000. And Brian and his team plan to alter the church considerably.
I'm not an architect, so I can't give you the architectural details, but I see a window up there that I would just love to see in a room. So probably with a mezzanine at this end, with that window featuring to get the light in, and probably having a very large space at one end and another large space before it.
So I've come back to find out how Brian's been getting on.
Well, it doesn't look as though very much has happened, certainly in the church, very little. But we have contacted an architect. He's been up and had a quick look at the place, although he hasn't actually drawn up any sketches or anything like that. He's due to come up in another couple of weeks, and then he'll put together proper plans. So, as you can see, not a lot's happened physically, but quite a lot's been going on.
That's me in the spotlight, losing my religion.
So preparations are well underway, but the team's having a rethink on the design.
It was going to be a single structure, a very nice luxury house. But the difficulty would be, it would be a very expensive house, and finding someone to purchase it in this area would be difficult. So the thinking now is that we'll convert it into apartments, probably selling in the region of 150 to 170,000. And that would give a very good capital return on the property.
Any redevelopment will have to respect the church's architectural and spiritual history.
I would like to see the stained glass left where it is and used as it's intended, but the difficulty is stained glass doesn't let in a lot of light. We may be able to put dormer windows in, which will give us a second floor, and that would certainly improve the scope.
So there's a possibility that there could be more people living at the church, and Brian is worried about space.
We have relatively little land around the church. It extends to the first row of gravestones.
The graveyard is owned by the council, and it could provide the solution.
I would like to see us take over that land from them and either partition it into 4 gardens or to keep it as one large garden space, which would be shared between the properties.
So now the team's rethinking the development. Can the budget cope?
Originally, we were thinking in terms of a cost of around £100,000 to convert. With 3 or 4 properties inside, that may well rise to £150,000. But it still leaves you a lot of scope if you have only 3 at £150,000. And if you have 4 at £170,000, very much better.
If they can sell all 4 apartments, there's a potential big profit for Brian's team. But how will they manage to incorporate all the church's features?
In the original concept, I would like to have seen the organ retained as a feature of the property. I would love to have a house with an organ in it. Imagine having a party. However, if we split it into 4 apartments, or even 3, that wouldn't be appropriate. So it'll be taken apart, refurbished and rebuilt, hopefully in a church or somewhere like that, where it can fulfill its proper function.
So the organ transplant will breathe new life into this church. What will 2 local experts make of Brian's proposals?
We hope to convert it into apartments, keeping as many of the features as possible.
And what are you going to do with regard to access to the apartments?
Being a listed building, you can't just have 4 entrances outside, so we may have to come in through one of the 2 main entrances and then go separately inside.
Very few opportunities like this come along, and Brian's obviously been quite lucky in terms of getting it at the price he got it at within the auction.
I think it would be good for the area to have something like this. There isn't any other apartments in Chiltern apart from a smaller block of two down flats.
I don't foresee it being more of a localised purchaser who's going to purchase them. I think there'll be someone in and around Chiltern, but not necessarily within the village.
I don't think people will find the old graveyards put off at all. It's never been used for the past 100 years or so, so I don't think it'll put people off the property at all, no.
I think the purchaser should be more inclined to look to sell the apartments than try and rent them. I think they'll get a bigger return upon sale value.
Brian and his team bought the church for 132,000 quid. What might it be worth when it's finished?
I would expect them to achieve an asking price of 150 to 170,000.
As it stands, I would say a reasonable valuation of between 150 to 170,000.
Well, the price that the estate agents quoted at 150 to 170,000 was exactly in line with the figures that we'd been thinking. Minimum of 150,000 is still a very workable proposition.
Well, it sounds to me like there's great potential here, but Brian remains cautious.
Almost certainly there's going to be something that we hadn't foreseen. That's the nature of the thing. There are 1 or 2 little pieces of renovation to the roof that are required, a few tiles missing, but again, nothing major.
But there is a problem with some sitting tenants.
Well, we have heard a rumour of bats in the belfry, but the belfry doesn't have any bells at the moment. It will obviously remain part of the structure, but the bats are welcome to live there.
Well, let's hope Brian gets these apartments built and those bats have some neighbours again.
Just round the corner from London's Elephant and Castle is Charleston Street. This ground floor, 2-bedroom flat was bought at auction by Liz for £162,000.
£162,000. Sold 162, am I right?
Liz is a carpenter and she had enlisted the help of a gang of mates to do the work with her. But there had been a terrible threat of disaster hanging in the air.
This property may not be mine. That's because...
What?
Yeah, I know. Well, it came to light only on the day of completion, which was Thursday, that actually there isn't planning permission to divide this house into flats.
3 months later, and the planning issue is now sorted. But what did the flat look like? Well, the gang seemed to have done a really good job. All the rooms have been tackled, not finished, but it's well on the way. Teamwork certainly pays dividends, but what does Liz think?
Yeah, it's been a lot of hard work, especially doing it all day and then coming here, and I haven't been in real clothes since I don't know when. But I'm very pleased with how it's gone. It's going well, to schedule.
But for some people, their input has been a bit more substantial than was actually planned.
I thought initially that my role here was going to be to help Liz sort out the finance and actually go through the buying process and to do a little bit of helping out. And it's turned out to... We did the initial buying bit, which was very exciting, very scary. And now it's turned into very hard work.
Delina will have a go at anything, which is great. She's done the lining paper, which she's getting quite good at now. And a lot of the painting. I've got a stack of disposable overalls. Anyone who visits gets given a paintbrush. But Delina's been fantastic.
So what were the problems with this renovation?
The biggest horror we found was beetle infestation, woodworm. So that was unforeseen expense, renewing the floorboards. And I'm a bit angry with myself that I didn't pull up the carpets and look properly, so I would have seen that.
Like a lot of auction properties, often it's the hidden problems that are the worst, so it definitely pays to hunt them out. But how have this team got on working together all the time?
Ellen and I work together anyway. Not all day, every day, which is good. So when we come here, we've still got something to say.
So have they fallen out over all this work?
No, we've managed to stay friends. In fact, I think we're enjoying it. We're enjoying it.
Obviously, the later it is, the more tired you get, the slower the progress. Occasionally, you might get a bit irritable, but we've got on okay.
I think we had one argument, but I don't think it was about the property, actually. In fact, I think Ellen and I are probably better friends now.
Obviously, we've got to iron out some creases. As everything, nothing's perfect. The walls are very out, which made it difficult sometimes for hanging the cupboards. But that's the quaintness of the house.
You think you're going to prepare a room in an evening, or strip a room in an evening, and you don't. It takes 2 or 3.
Well, Liz and her friends have done lots of work on this flat, but will 2 local estate agents approve of what's been done, and will it make her lots of money?
You're in the main plane?
I'm going to leave the main plane, yeah.
Okay, it's quaint.
It's cosy, isn't it? Really, there's a bit of touching up to be done.
It's always good to be shown around by, ideally, the owner, particularly in this case when the owner's actually done a lot of the work to the property herself.
The layout is very good, and nice wooden flooring, very homely feel. I like it. I'll put this property on the market between 195,000 and 200,000.
I'd probably recommend marketing in the 225 region and achieving anywhere from 215 upwards.
So will Liz be pleased with those valuations?
It's been a lot of hard work, but now I know what value it's added to the property. It's been well worth it, and I'll certainly do it again.
We had good fun. We had lots of laughs. What went wrong? What didn't go wrong? I would do it again. Oh, that saved lots of space.
I want it.
Put it in here.
Liz's team now have a success under their belt, so will there be some celebration?
You're joking, they mess it up, aren't they, my friends? Well, clean friends can come. Clean friends with overalls on can come. No, I will have a party, yes, to celebrate. I think I have to. I have to invite everyone who's held a paintbrush for a start.
So it won't be long before it's party time at Charleston Street. But remember, don't spill anything.
Well, we hope you've enjoyed watching our house buyers' adventures.
Well, join us next time for lots more auction antics.
Hope to see you then.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.